What is the biggest threat to comedy now? This is a question asked to comedians by The Hollywood Reporter. Hi, I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. Joel Kim Booster said, clapter. Now, if you're new to the podcast, clapter is a term where a comedian tells a joke, and rather than get laughs, which presumably is the goal, the audience claps as kind of like, yeah, we agree with what you're saying, but apparently it wasn't that funny. Joel Kim Booster said, clapter. Comedians who are more concerned about being right than they are with being funny. I feel like this is a phenomenon widely associated with progressive comics, but the majority of popular right-wing comedy is just as bad. Bert Kreischer went with people pretending there's an actual threat to comedy. From my perspective, comedy's thriving right now. Comics are taking huge chances, not only with material, but also with autonomy. The biggest success stories are guys doing things their own way, whether it's through podcasting or releasing specials on YouTube. I think comedy's in its gold rush era, and maybe that's because people are asking questions like, what's the biggest threat to comedy? Nick Kroll said, interview questions about threats to comedy. Apparently, this didn't go over too well. Tom Segura went with people not complaining. All the complaining that people think is hurting is actually helping. The idea that people shouldn't complain is ridiculous, too. That's all the comics do, complain. We complain, and so does everybody else. Nothing better for comedy than people outraged or pretending to be outraged by it. Remember way back when Michael Richards, you know him as Kramer on Seinfeld, went on stage and kind of lost his mind and his career by dropping the N-word over and over in a set? Remember that happened? Jerry Seinfeld said he never considered ending his friendship with Michael Richards over the controversy. Jerry said, I'm not minimizing what happened, but how could you not understand a mistake? Every comedian knows what it's like to be up there in that frying pan. It's very easy to lose your equilibrium and make a terrible mistake. I've offered to have fistfights with audience members. I said, let's go outside right now and sort this out. Michael Richards told Jerry that he wishes he enjoyed making the show more, and Jerry said it wasn't our job to enjoy it. It was our job for them to enjoy it. Jerry told WBUR when he walks in a room and sees another comedian, he runs right over to them. Because suddenly you find yourself in a group of people that have the same thing as you. You feel at home for the first time in your life. You've always felt, I don't belong here. And for the first time, you walk into a club and there's all these comedians standing at the bar and you feel like, oh, this is where I belong. I didn't know what I was here for. Now I know. The Last Laugh asked Gabe Iglesias about how he throws Spanish words here and there into his act. They were curious, how do you know if your audience can speak Spanish? Gabe said, I don't think about it. It's very much how I'm feeling. I'm mindful of where I am. So the fact that I'm on stage in LA, yeah, you're probably going to hear more Spanish words thrown in here and there because I'm more comfortable. It's home. If I'm in, let's say, Saudi Arabia, I probably won't do any Spanish because it won't make sense to anyone. It's that whole I Love Lucy, Ricky Ricardo getting upset. Hi, Lucy! You could tell they're laughing more at the way it sounds versus what it means. But at the same time, if I say something, I always follow it up with, this is what I'm saying, or you know what I'm saying, based on the way I'm reacting to the moment. Gabe talked about his writing process, and he said the very first time I did a Comedy Central half hour, they insisted I turn in a written transcript of my whole set, and I'm like, I don't have anything in writing. So my manager had to sit and listen to one of my sets and write the whole thing out. Then when I did the half hour, it was so off of what she had written. They were like, hey, this isn't what you turned in. She said, look, this kid's all over the place. That was me for the longest time. I knew what I wanted to do, but it was never verbatim. I'd always get to the finish line, but my paths were always different. A buddy of mine who'd always listen to my sets told me, dude, you can have a bit that'll last 15 minutes and do it tomorrow, and it'll last 5, and the next night it'll be 20. I don't know how the hell you do that. In my last special before the Dodger Stadium one, I started working with a couple guys. They weren't writing for me, but they'd listen to my set and break it down with time codes and talk about good segues and ways I can get in and out of the bits. They would help me structure it. It's all about staying on point because it was homework. I didn't want to do the homework, but I knew it was beneficial. And anytime you're working on a special, you need to get close to the time. You want to make sure that you hit your mark and you're able to get all your material in and not have it edited out. Rich Hall, the Sniglets guy. Remember the Sniglets guy from Saturday Night Live 40 years ago? Boy, we're all getting old. Remember that guy? Younger listeners are like, I have no idea who you're talking about. Trust me, his name's Rich Hall, and he was on SNL. Got it? Cool. He does a lot of work in the UK now. The Guardian caught up with him. And they said, hey, there were rumors of a UK version of SNL coming. Do you think that format would work with a British audience? Rich Hall said, the format works if the people in the show are willing to put in the work. I'm not sure they understand how long the work week is for SNL and how much money is involved. I can't see anyone forking out the kind of budget that they have in America. If you're not willing to go in there 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, and that includes the writing crew, the cast, everyone, then no, it's not going to work. Because even after all that, most of the stuff on SNL doesn't work anyway. People remember all the great sketches, and those get tons of free exposure on YouTube, but there's a lot of forgettable stuff, and it took a week to do that. I don't think it's the British television mindset to produce something like that. I don't think they're willing to put that much manpower, studio space, production value, and effort into it. All right, Rich Hall, Sniglets guy, was the best advice you've ever been given. When I was starting out, I used to play this deli in the San Fernando Valley. They basically gave you $50 and a sandwich. All the sandwiches were named after celebrities, the Bob Hope or the Bing Crosby or the Steve Martin. The owner called everybody Chief. I'd say, "Stop calling me Chief. My name is Rich Hall." And he said, "I don't have to call you anything. I don't care what your name is." He handed him a menu and said, "Look at this menu. You'll see that Burt Reynolds is just a Tom Selleck with a pickle." If you're in Vancouver, comedians are doing a show tonight to save a cat. Local stand-up comedian Brett Martin's cat Stanley was diagnosed with a rare form of cancer called mast cell tumor. Brett Martin was planning to sell his car to pay for Stanley's expensive life-saving surgery. Several comedians are doing a show tonight. It's called Save Brett's Cat. It's at the Loft Lounge at 8 p.m. All proceeds from ticket sales will go towards Stanley's surgery. If there are additional proceeds, they'll go to the British Columbia SPCA. All right, $20. The Loft Lounge in Vancouver, 8 o'clock tonight. You should go. Kumail Nanjiani spoke to ET Canada and said, "When I look at the people that inspired me to do comedy in the first place, someone I think of a lot is Robin Williams. When I think of people who started off as stand-up and ended up doing dark, dramatic roles, it's very hard to beat the level that he achieved in all those different areas. And I was like, if my heroes are doing this, then I have to at least try and follow in their footsteps." Kumail has recently starred in Welcome to Chippendales. You don't hear much about Trevor Noah these days, huh? Well, the Hollywood Reporter spoke to him and said, "Before you started The Daily Show, you called stand-up your first love. How do you feel about it now?" Trevor said, "When all the mountains and the valleys wash away, when everything else in my career is gone, the last thing I wish to be doing on this planet is stand-up comedy." And when I first read that, I took that to mean that he doesn't like stand-up comedy, but I think that's just, I was born in Queens, he was born in South Africa, and we use the language differently. Because Trevor said, "I think it's the ultimate combination of everything that I love about being creative. The audience is right there, so I can't blame anybody in between. I can't say, oh, sales didn't do a good job, marketing didn't do a good job, the studio didn't do a good job, the time slot was no good. Nope, the audience is right there. I'm right here. What I create, they immediately receive, and it's the most real form of direct-to-consumer possible. Second, I love that it's direct. They can tell me right now if they're enjoying it or not enjoying it. Third, I love that I'm the creative. It's in my mind. There are no budget constraints, no rewriting a script. I'm the person who has to do this for the audience, and it's a beautiful act of service. There's nothing that could beat comedy, in my opinion. It's like, yeah, I'm sure a movie will be wonderful, and when you're acting, there's a different way to express yourself that's exciting, but every actor I've talked to says, then 2 years later, you're like, oh yeah, that movie I made is coming out. You're still in the hands of editors, you're in the hands of special effects, you're in the hands of so many other things. There's just something pure about somebody stepping onto a stage. It's like theater for me. You step onto a stage and create a world using only what you have on your body, and there's something magical about that. Philadelphia Weekly was curious how the Grammys could nominate Louis C.K. and Dave Chappelle, and in an editorial they wrote, probably because neither comedian ever really went away. Chappelle in particular has never ceased or slowed his roll after being accused of transphobia. The other reason may be because each of the two comedians, controversial as they may be, are simply funnier than the other comedians on the list. Controversial or not, submitting material to the Recording Academy or not, Dave Chappelle and Louis C.K. are damn funny and are allowed to get nominated for their humor and their efforts. They tagged this with, "Just be thankful no one is voting for any R. Kelly records yet." That's your comedy news for today. Follow the show for free on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Premium subscribers can get the episodes early and ad-free, $5 a month. You can try that out for free. Just go to Apple Podcasts. They'll put it under your nose. You can try it for free for a month. If you don't like it, don't renew it. I'm not offended. Or it's an easy way to support the show. $5. I usually post the episodes around 4 o'clock the day before, and the weekend episodes I usually post on Friday morning. And you can also follow the show, audio version only, on YouTube. See you tomorrow.